Right, hey everyone, this is James from Investing and Testing again, going through a quick review of Sneha's resume that she sent me. So I haven't looked at it. This is my first time going through it. We'll see what we find. It's an old school looking CV straight away. Um, there's nothing really that makes it stand out. Um, it's long. It's 4 pages in small font. So that I've talked about this before in the other reviews. I've talked about this in the course. I much prefer a modern CV. I much prefer 1 page, at most two. Um, so, straight away I can see that that's stuff that I would change. I would make this larger so that it's easier to see. It's more memorable. Um, I don't think you need working rights especially if you're working or have worked in Melbourne recently. Yeah. So I think that that just confuses the issue, or actually, like, potentially is a negative against you. So I would just leave that out. Um, an experienced software test engineer with manual and automation experience seeking a challenging position in the field of software testing where my technical skills and educational background add value to the growth of the organization. That's nicely worded. I like that. Um, I'd probably talk about something that you've managed to accomplish here, potentially. Just like automation frameworks that you've built, reduction in tests, reduction in time, that type of thing. Over 5, so you don't need 5+. If you've got over, that already means, the plus is implied. Over 5 years experience as an automation and manual test engineer. I don't think there's such thing as a manual test engineer. So this is getting a little bit confusing to me. Around 3 years of Java development experience. Again, the plus doesn't make any sense. ISTQB and ITIL certified experience in airline, airport, availability systems, retail. Yep. So I am usually pretty happy with skill summaries. I do think that in general, less is more and more focused on the job that you're applying for. So take, that's my advice. Try to cut this down where appropriate for the job that you're applying for. Good expertise in test management, estimation, review of artifacts, development of test strategies, test plan. Yep. So you've just listed a whole bunch of buzzwords here, right? None of this is actually, I mean, it's nice that you're mentioning them, and it's good to tick them off the box if people are looking for those in their job ad. But you haven't told me anything about how you've done that. I guess this is a skill summary, so it's fine for it to be there. Extensively involved in. I like the bolding of stuff, by the way. That's really good because it's easy for me to see. Okay, if I'm someone, I don't actually particularly like ISTQB, so I'm not the person that would be looking for that, but other people will specifically be looking for that. So it's nice that you've got it bolded so it's easy for people to see. I actually think that's really smart. And you should bold essentially the stuff that's most relevant for the people that are looking for the job. Oh, sorry, that are looking to hire you. Extensively involved in writing various testing. That doesn't sound right. Extensively involved in various testing activities or writing test cases, including functional and non-functional aspects. Like, yeah, what I said right at this. Extensively involved in various testing activities, including. That sounds better. This doesn't read correctly. And again, this is just listing a whole bunch of buzzwords. I think that you can maybe you should get rid of some of them. Extensive experience in the design and development of test automation framework. Again, this doesn't read correct. This doesn't read well. Extensive experience in the design and development of test automation frameworks and behavior-driven development using Cucumber. I don't like that you've randomly capitalized this as well. That's not good. But that's great. I really like the fact that you're making these things bold. Cucumber can be capitalized because it is a it's a title. It's actually the name of the organization, or I guess it is an organization. Again, I always see this, some full stops at the end, some with no full stops. Good experience in API testing, both manual and automation. I'd probably talk about the tools that you use here, using Postman and Rest Assured, or using tools such as, just to make sure that you're hitting what, I guess you might have this down here. Yep, Postman, Rest Assured. Okay. Cool. So for me, this is sort of like a duplicate. I think that's why I'm struggling with it. Right? Because I'm like, you can cut this down, but then I'm like, you sort of do need it, but then you've also got a very similar stuff here. I much prefer a summary of skills rather than writing them out in this way. It doesn't really add any value to it being written in sentence structure. Extensively used frameworks like Page Object Model. Well-versed in Agile Scrum methodology, which includes, And this is actually one of the better CVs that I've seen. It's still too long, and so far you haven't told me anything other than the fact that you have the generic skills that I'm going to put on my job doc, right? Like, there's nothing about you other than you're hitting those marks. And it's good, like, you need to hit those marks, but I do want you to say something that makes you stand out. All right, test management tools. Yep, just standard. Programming, scripting. I think this should be programming languages, or maybe programming / scripting languages. I guess you don't want to put that in because it makes it slightly too long, maybe. Automation frameworks. Yep, this is all good. I mean, like, it can be improved, but and like I'm saying, maybe it's best if I just do another video on like what I think the overall format should be rather than trying to pick that apart. This is where it looks like things aren't as great. So, automation test engineer, this is good. I don't like the projects. I've said this multiple times. You are trying to show me that you can do the job, so you need to tick every box that I'm looking for. Then you need to stand out, and everything that is in your CV that doesn't do one of those two things is something that I might end up spending too much time on, or where I might read that I shouldn't bother with, right? Like, there is a good chance that if I'm reviewing you for a job, I'm going to spend 30 seconds looking at this, and this is a big part of, and it's actually above everything. You can direct the eyes of the users just like you would in a website on your resume. So you can actually be like, which part of my CV do I want to highlight? That's what I was talking about with the bolding. But you've put that directly under the job title, or I guess the company name. And so it's the first thing that I go to. And if I've only got 30 seconds because I'm looking at 50 CVs, this is something that you don't want me reading. I like the fact that this doc looks a little bit long. All right, so responsible for reviewing test cases. Yep, effectively tested new features. Again, like, you're noting stuff that is specific to that job that doesn't make any difference to me. I will say, let's say you're working in finance, and so I worked in finance, and there's a regulatory framework called Basel. If you're applying for another job in finance, then obviously list that. But I'm guessing that you're not, like, you're applying for a whole bunch of jobs. So talking about a CRM is fine, maybe, but even then, like, CRMs are so commonplace that I wouldn't expect that to be something that's going to make you get hired, right? Extensively performed kiosk stuff is something that maybe you should put in, because, kiosks are used in a whole bunch of places. There's probably a job out there at the moment where they are looking for someone with kiosk experience, but that's where, if it's in there, I want it to be in the job doc that you're looking at applying for. This stuff I hate. Use Jira. You have Jira here, and you might even have Jira up here, right? Let's see. No, you don't. But, you've got test management tools. So you've essentially got that you've done the same thing 3 times already. And I'm guessing it's further down as well. Yeah, like Jira. And so you don't need to say this 3 times. What I want you to do in these requirement sections is more highlight some of like the big achievements that you've had. Um, like you've developed this automation framework. Oops. Tell me more about it. Um, this is obviously, actually, let's check it, see if there are any spelling mistakes. Yeah, tell me more about it than just that you built it. Tell me how many tests were in it. Tell me how long the runs would take. Tell me what else? Like how it reduced the amount of testing required. Tell me all of that type of stuff because that's more interesting. Tell me about the success of the project. How many customers were using it? How was your team doing? Did you reduce the number of bugs? Did you increase the speed at which you found bugs because of this? That's the stuff that is going to set you apart. Otherwise, you're literally API testing, performance testing. Okay, you don't have performance testing up here, I don't think. Oh, you do. Okay, that's great. But then you're putting it in twice. And I'm guessing that this is the only thing that you say about it. Yeah, performance testing. So that doesn't sound amazing either. If this is your first job with JMedia experience, you actually might even see like learned how to like this is not great, right? Like I would not write this. Learned how to um, implement performance testing using JMeter. Built out 20 scenarios based on the production. Oh, my laptop is really slow at the moment. Usage. And then talk about how you maybe got that from, um, you know, production traffic or whatever, some analysis. I don't know if you did any of these things. Ran performance test to validate the performance of the, well, ran JMeter tests. To validate the performance of the system. You're going to have to apologize for all the spelling mistakes and that I'm making because I've got like 1,000 tabs open in a different browser and it's slowing everything down. So yeah, ran JMeter test to validate performance of the system from the use of tests. We were able to discover 3 bottlenecks. And I don't know if you did any of this. Which, when fixed, increased performance, whatever it is, by X percentage. Now, this is quite long-winded. Yeah, that's great. This is quite long-winded. Yeah, based on production usage. It's more long-winded than I would ever write myself because I'm essentially putting more in here than I usually would. But what I'm trying to show is that this makes you stand out rather than just running tests. I can see if you, like, let's say this was your first time doing JMeter, I can see that you picked up on the job how to use JMeter. It makes me it makes me think that you are someone that is trying to learn new skills and build your career. I actually already get that a little bit from this, but this reinforces it. If you already knew JMeter, then that's fine. We get rid of that. This we can probably get rid of as well. You can say built and ran and just combine this into one thing. And then this is actually what gives the business value, right? You executed the test, you found these bottlenecks, and you were able to increase performance. Or maybe you were able to reduce the number of faults in production or something. something that shows me that you understand more than how to. It's super easy to go on a tutorial site and learn how to use JMeter in 5 minutes, build out one test and press run and put that on your CV. But understanding how you found bottlenecks and increasing performance is something that, one, I can ask you questions about, especially if this is something that you know well and you want me to ask you questions about. It's something that shows me initiative. It's something that shows me someone that actually is results orientated. They're looking to provide value rather than just saying they can do something. So I would want all of your bullet points in a format sort of like that. And I talk about this more in the Investing and Testing course, the free one and the paid. So you can take a look at that. Extensively tested. So yeah, I think all of these are going to be like that. And yeah, so it looks like the rest of this essentially follows that format. Right? Where you are just putting that you used the stuff that you talked about here. And that's where I'm like, this doesn't help me actually understand what you're doing. It just tells me that you use those skills. So if you're looking to stand out, like most people will do this, but then you're not going to stand out. You're going to be essentially lottery as to whether you get chosen for, I did the capital B. It's going to be a lottery as to whether you get through to the interview round, right? Like some people are going to like this, some people aren't. So what I'm trying to say is you need to condense your CV and you need to expand on some of these bullet points that really show how great a candidate you are. If you want to write more about where you've used the skill set, put it in a cover letter. And again, I talk about this in other courses. But in general, I don't want to be too harsh because your CV is actually one of the better ones. I've reviewed about 5 so far. You're the first person I would consider bringing in for an interview. Everyone else, there were so many mistakes, and just spelling mistakes. This is really the only major mistake, and it's not even a major mistake in yours that I can see. So that's great. You've shown me that you have some attention to detail and you've got a good command of the English language. As I'm probably just about to find something. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm not so sure about capitalizing that first word again. I feel like just page object model with no capitals is better, but that's actually something you can Google search, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Education is fine, reference available on request. I don't think anyone needs this anymore, right? Like that was taught in, like this is what my dad taught me when I first made my CV. You put that at the bottom. And that type of thing just doesn't matter anymore. Again, I would get rid of this and I'd just put like location or like I'll probably put Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, so honestly, like this is a pretty good CV, but it could be improved. At the moment, I think, let's say I had 10 CVs that were this good, there's nothing that makes you stand out on top of that. There's nothing that I'm like, oh wow, I need to get this person because they are going to help me do this. I know that you have some of the skills that I'm probably looking for, but that's all that I know. So anyway, hopefully this helps someone. Thanks for watching. This has been James from Investing and Testing.